Guys, in this video, I'll be exploring a library called Fabric.js. So we are going to be building this simple project in React application where we have a basic image that is just the image of a t-shirt. So here inside the image, we have placed a canvas here. So here in the canvas, we can do some customization. For example, if I click on this area, this is going to add some kind of shape inside the canvas. Actually, we can add anything. I've just added a circle, but we can add anything. For example, we can add an image here, customize and design this t-shirt as we want. So this is a very intro level video on Fabric.js, and if you want me to make more videos on that, leave me in the comments. Now let's go to the Visual Studio Code and build this simple project. Stay tuned till the end of the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. So guys, I have a new application running here, and I also have a sample application that is running here. So we are going to try and replicate this application into our new React application. So to start building this project, what I'll do is I'll just build this simple area where I'm going to place the image first, and then we are going to try and implement Fabric.js and create the canvas inside this image. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code and build a simple container which is going to have this image as a background. So I am here in Visual Studio Code, and this is my new React application. So in this application, I've just placed my image that I want to use here in the public folder, that is photo.png. And we are going to be using this image to create this project. So to start building this project, I'll just go to app.js and remove all the default code from here. And here I'm just going to change the class name to container. So this is going to be our main container. So I'm just going to save this file and go to app.css. So here in app.css, I'm just going to remove all the default CSS that is here, and we are going to put some CSS on the container. So this container is going to have a display of flex, and we are going to justify the content to center. And on this container, I'm just going to also put a background color of yellow. And this container is also going to have a background image. And this background image is going to be coming from the public folder. So I'll just access the public folder by putting the path here. So we have to go to the public folder. Under the public folder, I have a photo.png. So that is the image that I'm going to use here. So let's save this and also look at the screen, how this is looking on the front end. So this is our new React application. As of now, I'm not able to see the image. To see the image, I also have to assign a height and width to my div container. So I'll just go back to Visual Studio Code, and here I'm just going to assign a width of 800 pixels because that is the width of my image. And I'm also going to assign a height of 1120 pixels. So these dimensions are basically matching with my image dimensions. So I'm just going to save this and go back to my application. So now in the application, we have a div container which is having the background image. To bring this div container in the center, I'm just going to put a margin left of 25%. So here let's put a margin left, which is going to be 25%. So now if I save this, go back to my application, now I'm just having the basic image, which is placed inside the div container. And now we can start implementing the canvas using Fabric.js. So guys, first thing we have to do is to install Fabric in this application. So I'm just going to open a new terminal, and I'm just going to install Fabric by running a command npm install Fabric and hit enter. So guys, now Fabric has been installed in this application. I'm just going to import Fabric at the top, and I'm also going to make some more imports. I'm going to import use state from React, and I'm also going to import use ref from React. So that's all the installations and that's all the imports we are going to need in this application. Now under this container, we can start creating a canvas. So under this container, I'm just going to create another div tag. And inside this div tag, we are going to create a canvas. And this canvas is going to have a width of 300. And it's also going to have a height of 300. So here on the canvas, let's put some styling so we can see it on the screen. So I'm just going to put some styling here. And in this styling, the first thing we need to do is we need to make its position absolute to the main container. And for this to work, we also have to go to the main container class. And here we have to make the position as relative. And on this canvas, we are just going to give some border to it so we can see it on the screen. And the border is going to be 1 pixel gray. We can make it dotted gray. So that's going to be the border. And we are also going to give it a margin top. From the top, it should be 30% down. So if I save this, go back to my screen. So here I'm able to see my Canva here, which is here. So the next thing we have to do is we have to implement something like we should be able to add elements in this Canva, and and these elements can actually move within the Canva, and we are able to customize this t-shirt using Fabric. So guys, to do that, we need to add some kind of button here which we can click, and this button can be used to add any elements inside this Canva. So I'll just go to Visual Studio Code and try to create a button here. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code. So here in the Visual Studio Code, we have a container. And if I expand this a little bit, so inside this container, we have another div tag which is having the canvas. So after my canvas, I'm just going to add another div tag. So I'm just going to copy some chunk of code here. So this is just a div tag which is having a text that says click to add circle. And this div tag is having some CSS applied to it. So basically I've kept the height of this div tag and the width of this div tag same as my Canva. So this is basically going to overlap the Canva. And this is a very basic CSS and there's nothing much happening here. So I'm just going to save this, go back to my application. So here you can see that I've just placed a simple element, which is a div tag, and I have styled it in a way that it looks like a button that can be clicked to add some element into this Canva. So this is a point where we start using Fabric to add elements inside this Canva. So guys, basically what we have to do here is we have to put a on-click event listener on this div tag. So when somebody is clicking on this div tag, this is going to fire a function that is going to add a new element inside this Canva. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code and put an event listener here. So here in my div tag, I'm just going to put an event listener on click, and on click, we are going to call a function that is going to be add element. So as of now, we don't have this function in the project. So I'm just going to create this function above my return statement, which is going to be add element. And we can leave this function blank for now and do other things which we need to do before creating this function. So in this function, we are going to need a reference to this Canva. So in this function, we should be able to access this Canva and insert an element inside this Canva. To do that, I'm just going to create a new variable here that is going to be Canva reference. And we are going to be using a useRef to create a reference to this Canva element. So using this variable, I'll just go to my canvas and pass a reference here. That is going to be my new variable. That is a reference variable. So now that we have access to the reference variable, we can start creating this function that is add element. We are going to refer to this element that is canvas, and we are going to try and add a element inside this canvas when this function is being called. So guys, let's try and write this function very step by step. So inside this function, I'm just going to create a new element that is canvas. And this is being created by using a Fabric library. So we are creating a fabric.canvas object. Inside this object, I'm passing a reference. And this reference is also passed within this canvas element here. So basically we are accessing the canvas inside this function. So this Canva element, we are able to access it inside this function. So once we have access to this, we can also add a new element inside this Canva by writing something like canvas.add. And inside this, I'm just creating a shape that is circle by using a Fabric library. I've also defined the radius and the what should be the color of the circle and the position. So once we have done that, we have accessed the Canva, we added the circle inside the Canva, and the last thing we have to do is we have to dispose the Canva. So basically we access the Canva, we added an element inside it, and then we are releasing the Canva after that. So that's all the commands we are running in this function, and this element is going to be fired when the button is going to be clicked. So I'm just going to save this, and let's go back to the application and see how it's looking on the front end. So I'm just going to click on that. And now you can see that this button is still visible. What we want is that once the element is added on a click of a button, this button should disappear. So we are going to make some changes in the code to fix that. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code again. So here I'm just going to create a state variable that is going to keep count of the number of elements that are there in the canvas. So this is going to be a state variable, and we are going to have an initial value of 0 in this. And as soon as my element has been added to Canva, so I'm going to set my count to count plus 1. And here at the bottom where my button is being displayed, that is this div tag. So I'm just going to put a condition here that if my count is equal to 0, which means there is no element inside the Canva, that's the only time I want to see this button. And once the element has been added in the Canva, this button should be disappearing from the screen. So let's save this, go back to our application and try this again. So now I'm just going to click on this. Now the button has been disappeared. Now we can see that element has been added inside it, and I'm able to drag it, make it bigger, move it. I can expand it horizontally or vertically. So I'll be able to customize this element as I want. We can actually do a lot more with the Fabric library. We can do all the image editing inside this Canva. But for this video, we are just going to cover until here. And if you want me to make more videos on that, you can leave me in the comments. And if you found a value in this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.